An extraordinary event occurred in the world of Marathi literature in the year 1933. A collection of short stories titled Kalyanche Nishwas, which means the breath of flower birds, got published and created a stir among the readers. Newspapers published articles denouncing the short stories as indecent and demanded that the book be banned. An earnest search began to ascertain the true identity of its author Vibhavari Shirurkar. While this chaos continued in the public domain, critics and discerning readers in fact welcomed the book for its literary merit. The mystery of the writer's pen name was finally solved 13 years later by the writer herself when she revealed her identity. By then, her novels Hindolyavar, which means On the Swing, and Virlele Swapna or The Dissipated Dream had also been published. The writer who adopted an entirely novel style of writing in Kalyanche Nishwas, a book that revealed the emotional side of women's issues, was Balutai Khare. After marriage, she adopted the name Maltibai Bedekar. Today, in the 26th episode of Granthyatra, we are going to discuss her collection of short stories, Kalyanche Nishwas. A warm welcome to all the viewers. When the book was published and it created a storm among the readers, its publishers carefully guarded the secret of the writer's identity. Shirurkar's husband, writer Vishram Bedekar, notes an interesting incident about this in his autobiography Ek Zhad Don Pakshi. One morning, referring to the book Kalyanche Nishwas, he said to his wife at the breakfast table, "This is a very interesting book. Have you read it?" "No," said Shirurkar, "but I have written it." These stories, written in a very simple, straightforward but appealing manner, acquaint the readers with the mind of women. This kind of writing was very unique in the decade of the 1930s. Each story in this collection is important for introducing the nature of women's personalities to the readers. To describe the minds of every character by entering her mind requires the writer to have a wide range of experience and to be well educated. The writer is serving the society by conveying the emotions of women in different circumstances and as appropriate to each occasion, says Sridhar Venkatesh Ketkar in the preface to this book. Women in Maharashtra had begun to receive education when this book was written. They were mostly getting married around the age of 20 and after completing their graduation. However, the values and ethics of the society had not changed much. On the one hand, social norms did not allow men and women to speak with each other, expected that women should marry according to the wishes of their parents, and believed that wealth was the only means of attaining happiness. On the other hand, education and jobs provided opportunities for men and women to mingle and to get acquainted with each other's thoughts. This situation led to several issues. Women began to experience a different kind of mental trauma and emotional harassments. The stories in Kalyanche Nishwas depict this expanding horizon of women and their emotional upheavals when embracing these new horizons. In the prologue to this book, Shirurkar says that these are the breaths of wilted buds. These are the tales of the buds that were ignored by the world and trampled by people. The world would not care even if they wilt away. What every bud wants in life is to bloom beautifully, smile, rock gently, and exude fragrance. That is the secret she holds to her heart. Even when she talks about other things, this is the wish she keeps enclosed in a case deep inside her mind. She never reveals it to anyone. What does the world know? All it sees is that the bud has wilted. Who cares to ask why she wilted? And Shirurkar goes on to depict in one story after another why these buds, these young women wanting to blossom, wilted away. The protagonist of the very first tale, Tyag or Sacrifice, is a graduate and has a job. Her parents and younger siblings are financially dependent on her. In fact, her education and her earning ability have ensnared her in the moral obligation to support her family, from which there is no escape. When she receives a proposal for marriage, her mother says, "Even if we educate both sons and daughters, In the end, sons are sons and daughters are daughters. This remark makes the protagonist realize the plight awaiting her family if she were to accept the marriage proposal. It would be like taking my old parents and my young brothers and sisters to the middle of the ocean in a boat and then taking away their oars. Oh Lord, why did you make me a woman? When a man marries, he continues to stay in the same house, but a woman leaves the house. Why then would poor parents sacrifice everything to provide equal education to sons and daughters? When she realizes the bitter truth that to think about getting married is to lead her family into starvation, she decides to sacrifice her happiness for their sake and stay single all her life. The story Antahkaranache Ratnadeep, or the bejeweled light in the heart, portrays the plight of a young woman with plain looks. The society conveniently forgets that such a woman is not devoid of emotions, hopes, and aspirations. The protagonist of this tale says, "Our Hindu marriage is a game of dice. As such, there is no dearth of cold hearted people who advise that a plain looking girl like me, who has no means to pay a huge dowry, should not bother to get married." In the end, she marries a young man belonging to another caste, but who understands her. As a consequence, her parents and siblings ostracize her. In the story titled Avinash, the parents of a young doctor get her married against her wishes. As a result, her life, along with that of her husband, gets devastated. Shirurkar notes the sorrows of young women arising out of their circumstances with great sympathy. More importantly, she also skillfully narrates the emotional ups and downs in the minds of these women as they face their life situations. The emotional storms accompanying the actions of the various characters in these stories, the struggle between emotions and discernment, and psychological analysis of these emotional states is the characteristic of Shirurkar's writings. In the story, Love is a Poison or Nectar, the protagonist falls in love with a young man as a result of social mischief, but she is unable to accept her own emotions. By the time she is convinced about the sincerity of her love, the man is married to someone else. Yet, when she can no longer bear life without her lover, she goes through the fear of social criticism, feelings of guilt at the thought of injustice towards his wife, realization of the weakness of her character, thoughts of suicide, and the mental struggle to overcome such dejection. Shirurkar describes this mental turmoil very effectively. The protagonist of this story says, "Will anyone understand my mental agony? Can anyone see from my point of view? If I were to marry my love, people will say, atrocious behavior by an educated woman, thoughtless act by an educated woman, blind selfishness of an educated woman. How will they know that such reckless comments will scorch my pure emotions, my soft mind, and my aching heart? Will they have any idea of how much I have endured, how my heart has bled, how my feelings were restrained, and how I tried to kill my body?" The tale, "Are You a Mother or My Enemy?" depicts the emotional battle between a widowed mother who is pregnant and her grown up daughter. In the story, "Look, These Are the Happy Families," Shirurkar writes about unhappy women in families that appear to be ideal on the surface. This is the story of a woman whose mind naturally dwells on the thoughts of marriage at a young age, her despair after several rejections, and finally her marriage arranged without considering her likes and dislikes. In this book, Shirurkar has tried to analyze the feelings of individuals who are branded as sinners by the society with great sensitivity. In her story, Sounds of Empty Vessels, Shirurkar writes about persons who tread a less virtuous path, their thoughts while committing disgraceful acts, their changing values, and how society fails a woman who is unable to control her mind raging with emotions. Here, the protagonist says, "My mind became helpless and delicate like a wandering kite pushed in every direction with unruly winds. My mind would keep thinking about the people who would make good or bad comments about me. My mind was a stranger to me. When I would think about who am I, my mind would begin sinking like a wayward kite. In another story, how can my father's family become mine? A father suggests that his working daughter should not get married because of his greed for her money. Here, Shirurkar makes a critical appraisal of human relationships and behavior. The young lady in the story says, I am often intrigued by one thing. What constitutes selfishness and what is selflessness? I personally think that there are many shades of selfishness. From one angle, it may appear to be pure selfishness, but gradually it will change its color and appear to be absolute selflessness. What we call selflessness is also in a way selfishness. Why do parents try to discipline their children? Because they want their children to be good. But why do they want their children to be good? Because they do not want the pain that they may feel if their children do not turn out to be good. In another story, Love or Beastly Attitude, Shirurkar cleverly depicts assumptions about love in the minds of young girls, their misconceptions, and their gradual attainment of maturity. We have with us today Dr. Vidya Devdhar, who will tell us more about the book Kalyanche Nishwas.
विभावरी शिरूरकर या मराठीतील स्त्रीवादी साहित्यामध्ये अग्रस्थानी आहेत. 1930 पर्यंत मराठी साहित्यातून स्त्री जीवन सुधारणेसंबंधी अनेक प्रश्न मांडले गेले होते. स्त्री शिक्षण, स्त्री पुरुष समानता, बालविवाह या प्रश्नांची जाण आणि त्याचबरोबर साहित्याची कलात्मकता, कथेसाठी आवश्यक असलेली संवेदनशीलता यांचा मिलाप आपल्याला विभावरींच्या साहित्यामध्ये झालेला दिसतो. त्याशिवाय लहानपणी लग्न झालेल्या दडपलेल्या मुलींची कुचंबलेली मनं आणि काही वेगळं करू पाहणाऱ्या मुलींच्या मनात उठणारे भावनांचे कल्लोळ यांचा एक अंतःप्रवाह विभावरीबाईंच्या कथांमधून दिसतो आणि हेच त्यांच्या कथांचं सामर्थ्य आहे. 1985 मध्ये माझ्या PhDच्या अभ्यासाच्या निमित्ताने मी जेव्हा मालतीबाई बेडेकरांकडे गेले त्यावेळी त्यांच्या मोठेपणाचं दडपण मनावर होतं आणि त्यांच्या शिस्तीची, स्पष्ट वक्तेपणाची एक भीतीसुद्धा होती. बाईंनी पहिल्याच भेटीत मला सांगितलं की आजकाल तरुण लोक आम्हा लोकांच्या मुलाखती घेतात आणि आमची उत्तरं म्हणजेच त्यांचं संशोधन असं म्हणून डिग्र्या मिळवतात. मी जरा घाबरलेच होते, पण त्यानंतर पुढे 15 वर्षातनं 3-4 वेळा तरी विभावरीबाईंची म्हणजे मालतीबाई बेडेकरांची माझी नियमितपणे भेट होत होती. माझा PhDचा अभ्यास होत आला तेव्हा त्या म्हणाल्या की अहो तुम्हाला माझ्याकडून काही प्रश्नांची उत्तरं हवी होती ना, तसं तर बोलण्याच्या नादात मी तुम्हाला सगळीच उत्तरं दिली आहेत, पण आता मी तुम्हाला सुसंगतपणे लिहून देते. आणि त्यांनी 5-6 पानं फुलस्केप कागद स्वहस्ते लिहून मला पाठवलं. विभावरीबाई म्हणजे मालतीबाई माझ्याहून 50 वर्षांनी मोठ्या, पण आमच्यात पत्रव्यवहारही होत असे आणि माझ्या पत्रातल्या शुद्ध लेखनाच्या चुकासुद्धा त्या दुसऱ्या पत्रामध्ये आवर्जून दाखवून देत असत. सभोवताली चाललेलं आधुनिक साहित्य, स्त्रियांचे प्रश्न, स्त्रीलेखिकांचं सामाजिक भान याबद्दल मालतीबाईंना विलक्षण उत्सुकता असायची. त्यामुळे त्यांच्याकडे भेटायला जाताना ही सर्व अद्ययावत तयारी करून मी नेहमी जात असे. मी मात्र मालतीबाईंना त्यांच्या भूतकाळात घेऊन जायचे. वयाच्या 12व्या वर्षी घोडनदीहून पुण्याला हिंगण्याला करव्यांच्या संस्थेमध्ये जेव्हा बाळूताई खरे शिकायला आल्या तेव्हा त्यांच्या भोवती महाराष्ट्रातल्या आणि महाराष्ट्राबाहेरून आलेल्या अनेक मुली होत्या. त्यामुळे वेगवेगळ्या ठिकाणच्या रीतीभाती, पद्धती यांनी बाईंचं आयुष्य समृद्ध झालं. अवघ्या 18व्या वर्षी कर्व्यांच्या कन्याशाळेत बाई शिकवायला लागल्या आणि तिथे त्यांना वेगवेगळ्या वयोगटातल्या वेगवेगळ्या आर्थिक स्तरातल्या मुली भेटल्या आणि या सगळ्या मुलींच्या मनातील भावनांमधून जे आपण कथा ह्या पाहिल्या, या कथांच्या हकीकती मी बाईंच्या तोंडून ऐकल्या. बाबांचा संसार माझा कसा होणार, यामध्ये बाबा मुलीला आपल्या सांगतात की मुलाचं लग्न मला करायला पाहिजे, कारण लग्नाशिवाय मुलगे राहू शकत नाहीत पण मुली राहू शकतात, म्हणून तू नोकरी कर आणि माझ्या संसाराला मदत कर. या सगळ्या वक्तव्यांनी मी हादरत होते. हिंदोळ्यावरील अचला ही शिक्षिका होती, पण नवरा बदफैली, त्यांनी बायकोला टाकून दिलं होतं आणि विरागशी तिची मैत्री होते, दोघांचं एकमेकांवर प्रेम जडतं, आपल्याला मूल व्हावं असं वाटतं. आणि अचला गरोदर राहते तेव्हा तिच्या मनात जे काही हेलकावे उठतात, तिचं मन जे हिंदोळ्यावर झुलू लागतं, त्याबद्दलच्या तिच्या मनातल्या वेदना आणि तिच्या मनाची अस्थिरता या ठिकाणी विभावरीबाईंनी रेखाटली. पण त्याच वेळेला समाज हा 4 दिवस भुंकणाऱ्या कुत्र्यांसारखा आहे, 4 दिवसांनी तो शांत होईल असा आश्वासक आधारही दिला. बाईंची भाडूताई खरे होत्या त्यावेळेला, पण विभावरीबाईंची जी प्रेतयात्रा निघाली त्याचंही वर्णन त्यांनी माझ्यासमोर केलं होतं. तेव्हा समाजातल्या भावना पहिल्यांदाच लोकांसमोर बाईंचं मन आलं आणि समाज थोडा बिथरला. पण तरीसुद्धा हे चांगलं आहे, हे काहीतरी वेगळं आहे, हे महत्त्वाचं आहे, आवश्यक आहे, हे याचं भानही समाजाला आलं. तेव्हा हे भान देणं ही मोठी समाजसेवा आहे असं श्रीधर व्यंकटेश केतकरांनी बाईंबद्दल उद्गार काढले होते. पण मला तर असं वाटतं की पुरुषी सहानुभूतीयुक्त लिहिण्यापेक्षा स्त्री निष्ठेतून लिहिलेलं बाईंचं साहित्य ही मराठी साहित्याची फार मोठी सेवा आहे आणि त्याबद्दल मालतीबाई बेडेकर, विभावरी शिरूरकर यांना माझं मनपूर्वक अभिवादन.
Vibhavari Shirurkar was the first writer in Marathi to depict the feelings of love in the minds of young women, their subtle emotions, and even their thoughts about physical love. Look at this paragraph. When one loves a person with heartfelt emotions and sincerity, that heartfelt emotion and the response it evokes makes every atom in the body blossom and reverberate with energy. Such energy, such rare magic is created. A mysterious joy never experienced before rises in the mind that many people in the world yearn for this feeling. Poets and discerning readers strive for it day and night. One then believes that this blossom of happiness has been granted only to me. Never before had Marathi literature witnessed such frank expression of love blossoming in a woman's mind. Similarly, a young woman in one of the stories initially equates physical love to beastly attitude, but gradually reaches the conclusion that intimacy is the result of an all-consuming love. Vibhavari Shirurkar's writing was thus different from other women writers of her time. Through her writings, she effectively depicted the emotional side of women's issues. It chronicled the various aspects of a woman's life, such as the emotional stifling of educated but unmarried women, difficulties faced by plain-looking women in getting married, the problem of dowry, the beastliness of love, platonic love, and extramarital affairs. I hope you will like this collection of short stories that proved to be revolutionary in Marathi literature. We shall meet next week to get acquainted to a famous mother. Until then, keep reading.